Well, hello there everyone and welcome to another portrait painting tutorial. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday weekend and I hope everybody is staying warm out there, those of you that are somewhere where it is very cold. Uh, so let's go ahead and get started with today. So hello there. Let's see here. Hey Barnes Justice, welcome. So with today, we're going to talk about facial expressions and color relationships. So let's go ahead and start to run the footage, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm going to do today. So typically, it's usually kind of a portrait painting sketch that I'm doing these days. The reason I'm doing them this way is because I want you to be able to have a very kind of like streamlined demonstration that is concise enough for you to be able to recreate this at home. You can see my chat's kind of in the way, so I'm going to move it for a second here so you can see what I'm doing. So it's going to be part facial expressions and part color relationships here. So I'm actually going straight in with color, and let me show you exactly what we're heading towards. So we're heading towards a very fun and expressive painting. I used a copyright-free image online, but don't worry about a photo reference. What I'm giving you is this as your photo reference because I want you to be able to have a tangible image to paint from and to recreate at home. So that's where we're heading. Very fun and expressive. Um, so hey Janice. Oh good, I'm glad you liked the Christmas card. Hey Beanpot. Hey Lady Death. So what I did there was I'm going in straight with color, and I used recall Cadmium Orange, Ultramarine Blue. That's Dioxazine Purple and Cadmium Yellow, mixing those together to create a nice kind of dark brown, a dark brown neutral. Hey, Stephanie Thompson. So we're not so much talking about color relationships or facial expressions yet, but more about placement and technique. So I'm going right in with the dark because I know that the hair is going to overlap the forehead. And if I were working from life, I always refer this to if I'm working from life, and I wanted to work more quickly, this would be how I would do it. And just for fun, I started this with a smiley face. I usually don't do that, but I thought might as well. We're talking about expression. So we're starting off with a little bit of a smiley face. You'll never really see me do that unless I'm like just trying to have fun. So now I'm going with the eye socket shape, and it can start as simple as that and then lead to what the end result is going to be. Um, and lately, these paintings are running pretty quickly, real time, doing them in about under an hour. So very fun and expressive way of painting. So because this is a live stream, those of you that are watching this live, please feel free to ask any art related questions, specifically about, you can totally ask about what I was thinking at this point when I started this, because there was a lot of things going on in my mind, but I think the main objective was just the placement of the face. Like how much of the canvas do I want the face to cover? Because I know that the facial hair at this point, I was already plotting out the facial hair and the hair. I was plotting that out on the placement of the canvas. Hey Christine, happy painting to you, Bean Pot. So I think this is about the third time now that we're streaming at this time period. So I will update you ahead of time now that my schedule is more consistent. So 10:15 a.m. around that time, 10:15 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So we're going in with some dark accents right away. Breaking some rules here because we're going from light and shadow right into dark accents without even worrying too much about how specific the light and dark is. Hey Francis, thanks for watching from Denmark. So facial expression, now we're actually getting to that right away. So he has a very kind of like kind of witty, kind of cheerful expression to them. I usually don't do expressions like that strong, but I wanted to for this one because you asked me to. So a lot of it is the smile line and the brow ridge. The elevation of the brow ridge is more kind of like peaceful. You see Rembrandt doing that a lot with his paintings. Um, but you can kind of move them independently, like your eyebrows and your smile line. So sometimes the smile line without the eyebrow ridge is more sarcasm, at least what I've seen, which I'm not really that big of a fan of sarcasm, but to each their own. I tend to be sarcastic a lot myself, but not all the time. But sometimes if you have this raised, this kind of flat, sometimes it's a happy, angry, which is like another type of sarcasm. Hey, Shavu, I'm good, I'm good. Hey, Lucy Jackson, good morning, good morning. I hope everyone's doing well. In particular, I hope everyone's warm. This is my first winter in a long time with central heating, so it's pretty nice to have central heating, especially when it's like in the 20s Fahrenheit outside. So now I'm mixing up white, and that is ultramarine blue. I know that the chat box is kind of in the way there, so I'll kind of move it around from time to time. So I'm going to place it there for a second because you asked about color relationships, and now we're going to talk about it. So color relationship is when you have at least three masses of color. What is a mass? A mass is just a generic blob, basically just a blob of space. It's just in the three-dimensional space. It is just a big little shape. Doesn't have to have a specific boundary yet of color. You have three boundaries of color, three masses of color that are touching one another, that are against one another, and you can relate them to one another. The secret here, which shouldn't really be a secret, there should be no secrets in painting, but it's little known that when you're trying to work with color, specifically if you're painting from life, specifically if you want to work with color relationships, you should work with adjacent colors. So for example, let me move the chat box back towards the skin color over here. And yeah, let's move it there. So for example, if I'm trying to paint the beard color, I'm going to look at the facial color in relation to the beard, for example. So my peripheral is on the beard. My peripheral is on the thing that I'm trying to paint because I'm looking at it relative to something else. Now, this is more of a technique than anything. It's more of a technical trick than it is color relationship. So what I'm doing is, because I know that this is Alla Prima and I want to cover things quickly, and I had already basically planned out that the hair was going to be kind of a warmish violety gray next to the kind of orangey neutral darker skin tone, I knew right away that I needed to go with a thin dark over top of the hair. A thin dark that leans towards a kind of purplish brown. Not a bright purple and not a brown, but something in between that. So I covered, and I still haven't covered it all yet because I'm going in with some dark accents. And again, like a brush stroke like that, actually for this painting will remain, as you see there on the top left, the entire time. That's how efficient we're trying to be. So the idea is that with color relationships, you're planning out each shape by looking at its neighboring shape so that you can see them in relation to one another. Hence the word relation in color relationships. Next, for a technical wizardry here, apply a thin coat. I just thinned it out with odorless mineral spirits for the dark of the hair. As you see, that's very thin paint right there, um, and you can actually paint and cover the surface a little bit more quickly if you thin it out, and then you add paint to it. So there I'm testing. So for the background, I'm working all these color relationships in my head. So I knew that I wanted the background to be kind of bluish to offset the warmer colors of the skin tone, but I wanted it to be slightly different on the right than it is on the left, so that the light side of the hair has a nice contrast with the left side of the hair. So there's a little bit of contrast there. So it's a kind of like off bluish color that I got by killing off Phthalo Turquoise with Cadmium Red amongst some of the skin tone colors that I took out, so lots of colors going on, lots of things all over the place, and just working with these shapes. And we just passed the 10-minute mark in the painting demonstration, so really trying to cover ground here as efficiently as possible. So now I'm going in with the light of the beard, and we're starting to cover right over top of the dark. Like I said, I knew ahead of time that adding that dark layer of the hair would make it easier for me to go into it and add more light over top of it. So let's ask a question that I like to ask everyone here. And we've got about 20 of us here. So let's see. Question that I always start out with, and some of you already told me, but hey Volker, I think I missed your thing. You said hello from Germany. So what I'm gonna ask everyone, actually, let's ask a different question. How was your holidays? How did your holidays go? Mine was pretty good. I got to spend time with family. We stayed up with my in-laws. We stayed up till 12 a.m. on the 24th, which is a kind of like a tradition for them. Then on the 25th, I went to go visit my immediate family, my cousins, and then I visited my mom after that. So a lot of driving, but it was pretty nice, pretty nice. I ate too much, so I gotta exercise more. Um, so being pot restful and chaotic somehow. So that's how it is, kind of sometimes, right? Francis still feeling full from all the food. Oh, I know. The leftovers is great. Now more than ever, I appreciate the leftovers. So now we're adding some more of the texture there. And I went a little too far with the nose there. So I'm gonna get the skin tone brush eventually and fix that. Janice, buried with snow in the blizzard. Uh-oh. I hope you're staying safe. I hope your pipes haven't frozen. Yeah, it was like, what was it, like 12 degrees Fahrenheit here, which I wasn't really used to. And my car is a manual transmission, and it did not want to go into fifth gear or reverse. I have a 5-speed. It didn't want to go to fifth gear or reverse. I couldn't back out of my parking spot for a while because it was so frozen. It was pretty frozen. So now I'm filling in, so I'm breaking some rules here. I'm filling in a dark light for the glabella, and I know that I'm going to paint into it later, but I'm filling it in because I want to work the planes now around it more specifically. And now with this light, it is a little bit difficult to tell light and shadow, so I'm kind of giving myself some little leeway here with the light and shadow because I know I'm going to go in and make it more refined. But typically, you want light and shadow to be like crystal clear. Yeah, Janice. Oh, okay. Still digging out of the snow. Hey, Bonzi. Let's see. You received some rosemary brushes. Oh, awesome, awesome. So Lucy Jackson, traveling, fun but somewhat rushed. It does always feel a little bit rushed, I will say. I hate packaging Christmas gifts. My wife loves doing that, and they all laugh at me when I do that. I just cover it and tape it. I don't even care what they look like. Hey, Janice. Yeah, I'm kind of allergic to automatic transmissions. So now we're filling in some of the dark for the eye sockets here. So, fun fact, with character, when people are raising their eyebrows and when there's like kind of like a expressive character, sometimes one eyes can be a little misaligned. I mean, not a lot, but some people have more, people have variety on their faces. Sometimes if you raise one eye more than the other, or you raise the eyes, you can't actually tell if one eye is misaligned a little bit relative to the other. So I intentionally made his left eye a little bit higher to give more expression to the well, to more expression to the expression. So I intentionally lifted his left eye. No, never mind. His left eye, the eye to the right. I lifted up intentionally. And there we have the brush stroke that I was talking about for the smile line. And I like painting people with beards. It's because I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit more fun sometimes, but because you can only see his eyes and his nose, I wanted to make a point of this that that's all you really need, even if you cover the mouth. Kind of like, do you remember pandemic days when people would only cover their mouth for some reason? And you can tell if they were smiling, but if they were covering their mouth, particularly here, you can't actually tell if they're smiling because somebody can be frowning and raising their eyebrows, which again is a sarcastic kind of look. And Rembrandt has painted himself like that before. I always refer to Rembrandt because Rembrandt. But let's see. Any more comments about how your holidays went? Because you know what I'm gonna ask next, and it relates to the holidays. And another thing that I'm trying to do, and you'll notice it eventually, but I'm trying to paint references as models from different ethnicities. I'm trying to paint basically all around the world. I want to add more variety to my portrait paintings, and I want to add more character in terms of brushwork and paint handling. That's something that I'm striving for these days. This is going to be a series of paintings. I've already started a series of these paintings. They're all smaller, 8 by 10s, 8 by 10 faces that will eventually be on the market, but not quite yet. So now we're starting to add more planes, and we're approaching the 20-minute mark. So I painted this one in two 20-minute intervals and then one 5-minute interval. So you're seeing here the last like 3 minutes, and I was aware of the timer. So if you want more practice painting, like if you're painting from references but you want to feel like you're painting from life, give yourself a timer. That's one big piece of advice I can tell you, is to give yourself a timer because it adds a little bit of extra pressure. And of course, the pressure was already on me because I knew that I had to paint this kind of efficiently in order to be able to do this video. So a little bit of pressure is good. So now we're putting in the dark for the crease of the eyebrows. In 20 minutes, you can already see basically the trajectory of where we're heading. And I set the stage for the basically the subtlety. So in the next 20-minute mark, we're going to take all of that and we're going to make it very subtle, not too subtle because we don't want to overwork it basically, even though I don't think you can overwork things, but we're going to head to what you see on the right. So you can see the trajectory of where we're going here. Okay, so next thing I'm going to ask everyone, and then once I ask this, then I'm going to talk about what the color relationships are because that's what you wanted me to talk about. So let's see, any New Year Any New Year's plans for those of you that are going to be doing New Year's next weekend? Any New Year's plans, everyone? And I know that the New Year is not the same everywhere around the world, so I guess this is only for people that are going to have New Year's next week. Let's see. So now we're just kind of rounding out the light on the forehead. And let's talk about color relationships now. So remember the masses. You always want to state the masses. So three main masses, basically light and shadow and its surroundings. In this case, it was skin tone, beard, background. Those are the three main masses, and then the dark, kind of reddish for the shirt, which is in contrast to the warmish colors of the face, because it is a lot warmer than the face. So it makes the face not look too warm. If that red wasn't there on the bottom, then the face might look a little too warm. And the background is kind of like a bluish, but it's not too blue in relation to that of the hair and in relation to that of the skin tone. Those are the main masses in this composition. Once we stated those masses, then we subdivide the masses into smaller planes, as we already did, and now we're subdividing it in even smaller planes. So the more you work those color relationships, and the more you work these color relationships, the more you describe the light key, meaning what is the characteristic of the light. Is it a bright sunset? Obviously not in this case. Is it a cool natural light, like a 12 o'clock p.m.-ish, or is it a sharp kind of like 3 p.m.-ish kind of light? In this case, it's very subtle. So it's more like a north light, more like a 12 o'clock p.m.-ish kind of light. And when you subdivide the planes even further, the color relationships become almost within the interior of the small shapes, almost non-existent. The color change within the plane change, because every plane change is a color change, if you're working with color relationships, that is very subtle. So one eyelid could be closer to the pink and the other could be closer to the orange, but the subtlety would be so small that you just don't really see it. Now, in the reference, it's non-existent. If you're working from a photo reference, it's non-existent. So in order to do color relationships on the photo reference, like you're working from life, you must work from life a lot first. If you haven't worked from life a lot, the best thing to do is to do self-portraits, and ideally do self-portraits under different light situations. It could be as simple as painting yourself under your kitchen, like dining room light, move to your bedroom, paint in the bedroom light. If you can fit in there, move yourself to the bathroom light, because they're all going to be somewhat different. And then ultimately the window, you can use the window lighting. If you're going to get really fancy with it, then get an LED light and change the light settings. And nobody wants to tell me what their New Year's plans are. So maybe that wasn't a good question. Um, Maybe I should ask something art related. I actually don't know what I'm doing for New Year's. Um, I think my wife and I are gonna watch the funny cult film called The Room and throw plastic spoons at the screen every time Tommy Wiseau says something funny. Um, that might be our New Year's tradition. I don't know. So now with the smaller planes, you see that I'm using the Sable brushes. So these are um, Silver Brush Grand Prix Pure Red Sables. And I'm going in with the dark accents for the eyebrows. Again, for expression, when the eyes are elevated like that, you see how one eye is a little bit more open than the other? That gives kind of like a nice, witty, kind of humble type of expression here. Within the darks, anytime something is really dark, the color relationships are very difficult to distinguish, especially when you're looking at a picture of it, because you're looking at basically a motion picture of a painting. You're not going to be able to see them. I don't have black on my palette. Black, if you're talking about ivory black or Mars black, is just a very neutral blue. Uh, Now we're adding a highlight, and this is Phthalo Turquoise, and I killed it off with a little bit of Cadmium Red. So you see here, I'm kind of struggling to add it on there because the paint is very thick. So a little bit of blue there. Now a little bit more blue, as you saw there, for the other highlight. So a fun thing about highlights, if you're working with color relationships, if you see someone that makes the highlights all the same color, if your highlights are all the same color, it shows that you don't have training with color. Now, they can be very close, but differentiated in terms of their hue. So, for example, the two highlights on the eyes, they're very close. But as you saw on the palette, I made a point of going to basically remix it and make it more blue for the eye to the right. What's going on, everyone? We haven't had a comment in a long time, so let's see. What am I gonna do? Let's see. Now we're painting in the plane change for the side of the bulb of the nose. And his nostrils are a little bit raised, not too much, but just a little bit because of his expression. Hey, San. Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoy the videos. Hey, Christopher. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you like the painting. All right. Let's see. Art-related question. It's kind of early to ask this, but maybe I should start asking this sooner. So what would you like me to talk about next time? What would you like me to cover? We're still talking about expression, but we've mostly got it with the eyebrows raised. Gives him more of a cheerful. The eyebrows, the eyes a little bit, one raised a little higher than the other, gives more of kind of like a wittiness. So think about Jim Carrey. He's really good at that, like raising both eyebrows. Think about Jim Carrey, like think about the movie The Mask, which is one of my favorite movies ever. But that kind of misalignment within the eyes gives kind of more of like a wittiness to it. This is cheerful, misaligned a little bit is kind of more witty. Um, and the smile line being raised makes the model more cheerful. If you go more serious, which is typically how people are posed when you're painting from, I feel like 99% of paintings are more of a serious kind of sitting, kind of contemplative. Rarely do you see paintings like this that are more kind of like more cheerful. As you might remember last time, um, Bad Santa was more kind of like that kind of serious expression kind of thing. Hey Bonzi, no New Year's plans? You have an observation though. The subject reminds you of, I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't know who this is. This is from a copyright free reference on Pexels. Um, I do kind of intentionally alter from the reference. The reference had like a light background. The model was this skin color. Um, I don't know exactly who it was, but I tried to not make it about the model as much and make it more about uh, the painting experience. And I want to also make this about different ethnicities as well, because I want, like I said, I want to paint from different ethnicities as much as I can in order to add more variety to the world of portrait painting, because I think the world of portrait painting needs more variety, if you ask me. But that's just what I think. Let's see. Yeah, Bonzi, I don't know who it is, but I could post the reference link. Do I even have it? I don't even know where it is. Um, but I could post it maybe in the comments later. Not sure where it is. Hey Jane, thank you for your compliment. Can you talk about key elements to get the best likeness? Sure. So it's a difficult thing to do because with a reference, because I'm typically trying my best not to focus on likeness with a reference. So if I were to make a video on likeness, I would have to do a self-portrait, um, because you could see me here and you can tell if I got my likeness or not. So uh, that could be another self-portrait coming up. Hey Christine, am I still teaching at the art school? Yeah, I'll be teaching a portrait painting, intro to landscape, and a intro to painting and drawing, which is more of like a basics thing. Um, I am still going to be teaching that. At least I'm offering it. Currently, I don't have enough students to run the classes. They will start in January 20th, which reminds me, I need to send out the materials list. I need to do that soon. But yeah, it's in Glen Echo, Maryland. The reason I haven't announced it or I didn't market it at all yet, was because for a while, um, there was some, I'm not going to say what it was, but there's kind of like let's just call it a typo in two of the classes, which is nobody's fault. It just happened. So um, I didn't advertise it, but in theory, I will be teaching it January 20th. Hey, Bonzi. Oh, good. I'm glad you like my methodology of mixing it up. Yeah, of course, of course. That's something I'm striving to do these days. I do want to paint a variety of different skin complexions, different ethnicities, different backgrounds. It's going to be hard to find these references. A lot of it's going to be more making it up as I go, but who knows? Maybe in the future I'll be able to, like um, have different models from life, and different kind of like travel and paint the world kind of things. Who knows? Who knows? But I'm happy with the setup that we have here. There it is. There's that smile line. So I put that in very bold, very strong. Um, so there you have it. That's the smile line there. Eventually, we're gonna get to the mouth, because the mouth is gonna need some addressing. A mouth is actually very tricky to paint within a beard, so it's gonna be kind of difficult. What did I miss, Sam? Did I miss a question? Let's see. Oh, I couldn't see it. Thanks for reminding me. How much oil do you use? I tend to overuse it. I think uh I don't like it, but let's see, like it to be dry and pasty-ish on the brush. Oh, okay, so how much oil? So you mean like linseed oil or stand oil or walnut oil? With this one, I didn't use any medium. I could have used a touch of Neo-Megilp, and I'll type that out for you. This is the only medium I use these days, and it's from Gamblin. And I like to use it because it is a moderate dryer. It's not a super fast dryer, and it's not kind of like a slow dryer. It's a little on the fast side, but not that fast. And I used it, if anything, I used the touch of it with the dark accents of his eyes, because when you thin out the paint with Neo-Megilp, it kind of like has a darker sheen to it than with Gamsol. And I might have used a touch of it. And if I move my box, you'll see it. You see that the top right of my box there? That is the Neo-Megilp. It's a gel medium. It's a jelly-like medium, like liquid. Yep, no problem, Sam. Let's see. Hey, Luis. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like my explanations. I'm glad that they help. Frentis, do I ever use synthetics or only hog brushes? Uh, I don't know if my bristles are hog brushes. They must be because they're bristles. I'm not sure. But I typically like to use the same type of brushes consistently. Like for my bristles, I like to use Silver Brush Grand Prix filberts. Those are my favorites for bristle brushes. And then I use, of course, Sables, which is from Silver Brush. Not that I'm sponsored by Silver Brush. I just like, I mean, I wish I was, but I like Silver Brush. Um, Synthetics, no, I don't really use them that much unless I'm like blending something. I don't use them that much. So now you see with the mouth, I put in the dark for the upper lip first. Always, if you're working with Prima, put in dark first, then add light. It's easier to work that way. And then I put in the dark accent, and then I put in the light for the upper lip. And then I put in the dark grayish for the facial hair, overlapping the lips. And I raised it that way intentionally to leave kind of like a witty, kind of like a smile. Because we're talking about expression in this case. So to add a little bit more expression. Hey, Luis. Thanks for watching from Argentina. Okay, so it seems question is about likeness. And again, if I were to do a video about likeness, it would have to be a self-portrait. Because likeness with a photo reference is a very difficult thing. And if you get a commission to do if you get a client that says this has to be exactly right, trace the darn thing. Project it or whatever. Don't try and freehand draw it because what they want, what the client wants. If you've got a client, and I say this all the time because this actually just happened to me. If you get a client that says, I want this to be exactly like the person that they want to be painted, and they want it from a photograph, what they're saying is, I want my picture to have a painter filter, and I want to pay a lot of money for it. That's what they're saying. Um, and most of the time, they're going to give you more trouble than it's worth. Most of the time. I had a client, I painted an eagle. I'm not going to say any names, but I painted a bald eagle that they wanted. And yeah, this person sent me the reference for the bald eagle. I painted it as exactly as I could, as per his reference. And on top of that, I sent him the picture of the finished thing with close-up details, and he was happy with the picture. I gave him the painting in real life. I did the transaction with him, and he said he wasn't happy. He said it needs to have more detail. And I'm like, I did exactly what you wanted from the reference. He's like, well, yeah, but you could have looked at other bald eagles. And then this is a guy that wanted me to do another commission for him, like a big one. First of all, he paid me like nowhere near what the eagle was worth for its size. So basically, I said no. I said no. I'm not going to work with you. I'm not going to do any business with you. It's not worth my time. You don't know anything about the arts, this kind of arts. So it's not worth my time. Like I said, I'm not going to mention any names, but and he's a wonderful person with a beautiful personality. He really is. But he just doesn't understand this type of art. And it's not his fault. This type of art is just not, it's really not that well known. So, again, this can happen to anyone. Hey, Jonas. Hey, Francis. Are filberts better for portraits or when to use flats in portraits? So, for example, that is a cat's tongue brush that I'm using there. So, to better address your question, I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to show you why I like filberts. So if you look at my box, if you look at the top left, for example, it's the top left of my box is pointing right at a brush stroke there. And you see there, that brush stroke right there, that brush stroke could look like a flat. It could look like a flat brush stroke, but it's got a little bit of a curve to it. And that's iconic for a filbert because it has the little roundness. So for portraits, I will say that flats are harder because you have to round things out more. Filberts are a bit easier because the brush stroke is automatically rounded, so it does some work for you. But for precision work, for fine detail work, like what you see right there, top left of my brush, that is a cat's tongue shape. So it's not made of cat's tongues, but it's kind of like a spade. That is a pure red sable cat's tongue. So it's got the, when you put more pressure, it's like a filbert. Less pressure, it's like a round brush. So it gives you the ultimate control over those small transitions. So let's continue to play the footage, and that's my best explanation for why I like to use the brushes that I do. Big flats can add nice effects. So like if you want to have like flat brushstroke effects, that could work too. Christine, question: can an individual tutorial be purchased on a particular painting? For example, Rembrandt, be purchased? Well, I typically do, for example, like so if we're talking about like a Rembrandt, the only way to really purchase a tutorial is on Patreon, where you sign up for a membership and then you have access to all of my links for these videos, which I do without the ads for my online students. I haven't actually sold particular videos just because I don't really have the format, the platform to do it in order to sell like a MP4 format, if that's what you mean. Um, so, Christine, I haven't really done it. It doesn't mean that I can't. That's a good idea for something I could probably do in the future. But it's a good idea. Although there's already a lot of them out there, so I'd have to compete with like Robert Liberace and like a lot of other big names out there. But that's a good idea, Christine. I like that idea. But currently, I don't really have any videos for sale yet. Hey Jonas, I'm glad you like the facial expressions, the smile lines on the forehead. It's definitely something that it takes a lot of wet on wet kind of stuff, because even if you do it with layers, you end up still doing wet on wet. And there's so many things I want to improve on myself as well. A hippie artist. Oh, yep, it's not made of cats. Cat's tongue sables are not made from cats. Hey, Francis, I'm glad you liked the answer. Okay, so it looks like in the future, you want me to talk about likeness. That seems to be the underlying, the major question that I've had is about likeness. So we could do that, but it would have to be a self-portrait. And it just kind of fits, I guess, because I want to do different ethnicities all around the world. And I count, right? My family is originally from Peru. I was born and raised in Maryland. Represent Maryland. I really am proud of Maryland. Lady Death, likeness? All right, likeness it is. Likeness it is. It will be another self-portrait. Maybe I'll spend more time on it, so that can be kind of like an encore session. Another thing to mention now that we're here, and planes. Yeah, of course. Planes of the face. Every plane change is the color change. Every form itself is a plane, so definitely we can do that. Um, from San. How long did it take you to start making portraits when you began oil painting? I pretty much tried doing portraiture right away. I did a behind the scenes on my Patreon. I found, okay, story time. So I'm going to pause this here because there's only really 3 minutes. And at this point, we're just refining it because you can see it's pretty much there. So I'm pausing it there for a second, or we'll just let it play. All we're doing here is refining, and we're in that last 5 minute interval. Story goes, when I was in art college, I would try and ask people to pose for me, um, to paint them from life. And I was walking around, and a long story short, I asked someone to pose for me, and it was horrible. I mean, I did so bad. I just did so bad, and yeah, it was just such a terrible painting. And I found it. I recently moved, and I found it next to older paintings, next to a painting. So this was in like 2009, and then there was a painting that I did in 2012, and you can see a huge difference. Um, but those paintings are now gone because I moved and my stepdad threw them all out. But man, I did so bad. I did so bad back then. That was 2009. Sam, to answer your question. So from Jane, it's a revelation. I've always tried to force portraits to first reflect the likeness, which results in overworked and stiff paintings. Jane, definitely Jane. Try to make the portrait as fine art first. So if your main thing is the likeness, and in that instance, just trace it. But if you want to do portraiture for like the portrait as fine art, then don't worry about the likeness. The likeness will automatically happen for you if you follow the drawing and the color relationships. Um, hey Rob CP, can you sell through Udemy? I think I've looked them up. They're kind of strict. Udemy, and another one was like Skillshare. They're a little bit strict for me, but whoa, how did I not see that? Oh, thank you so much, Stephanie Thompson, for the super chat. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the super chat. That helps me so much. That right there is how I'm going to get my refill my cadmiums. So thank you so much. For the New Year's and the holiday gift. You are too kind. Thank you so much for the super chat, Stephanie Thompson. Thank you. That is so helpful, so helpful. A question from hippie artist or comment. It used to be standard that painters painted from life. Now everyone expects to get a real life painting from a terrible photo. Exactly. I know, right? That's just how it is now. From Frentis, do you ever experiment with value ranges in a portrait? For example, only using 5 lighter values or 5 darker values. So, Frentis, I typically keep my values. Now I'm about to sign it. So I actually typically work in 5s anyway. I don't express it, but once we pause it, I'm going to show you the 5 groupings of values on this painting. I typically only work with 5s. Even with a more finished painting, it's typically 5 values and some edges. And I think that's what we talked about 2 videos ago. I don't remember, but I'll show it to you with the end result of this one. Hey, Red Angry Bird. And again, Stephanie Thompson, thank you so much. You are way too kind. Thank you so much. Let's see, Luis, can you explain the light spot on the nose and the line of the eyes? I can do that. So once I'm done signing it, this is definitely the last one that you'll see me sign, I think. Right? New Year's is next weekend. So this is the last one you'll see me sign 2022, which now dates this video. So if you're watching this in like the 2030s or something, this is more of a vintage video for you. So from Jonas, is likeness all about having the perfect outlines and color second? So now this is the finished result, and you'll see it's going to look a little different. And Jonas, I'll get to your question in a second here. So there it is. It's going to look a little different than the photograph because the photograph is going to just, it's going to have a different light setting on it, but there it is. And we did that in about 46 minutes, 30 seconds, 46 minutes. So let's get that out the way. So let's address the question Jonas asked. Is likeness all about having the perfect outlines and the contour second? So you can get the perfect likeness without color, you're correct. As my teacher John DeMartin would say, likeness is nothing more than the confirmation of an accurate drawing. Drawing is nothing more than a series of corrections. Painting is nothing more than drawing with color. Therefore, painting is nothing more than a series of corrections with color. So, if you are painting all around, and I made his nose a little bit round, which adds more kind of like expression to the overall thing. But in real life, I mean, by overall thing, I mean, I define painting as a thing, never a person. Painting is a thing. People are not. People are people. Um, but if we're referring to the painting itself, some things are exaggerated a little bit, so it pushes likeness in a different kind of direction. But it's all about drawing. So in your what you said, outlines, yes, but color also adds something extra to it, to likeness. But yes, your question is, I would agree with you. Outlines definitely, in terms of placement of things and light and shadow, and then color. I would agree with that. So from Luis, can you explain the light spot on the nose and the line of the eyes? So moving my little box. The light on the nose right there, that's the highlight for the plane that is facing the light the most on that section. Here, the light is facing the most on that section and on that section and there, which we'll get to the grouping of the values next. The line of the eyes, right? The line of the eyes. So the eyes are a little off kilter. If you look at my box here, you can see the eye to the left, as I did intentionally make it a little bit higher. You see his eyebrow here is a little bit higher. So kind of like that Jim Carrey, kind of like independently raising the eyebrows. It gives it a little bit more of a witty kind ofness to it. If he was just centered kind of like this, a serious look, then they would be aligned. So that's the line of the eyes for you there. So from Frentis, do you ever experiment with value ranges in a portrait? For example, only using 5 lighter values, 5 darker ones. I basically use 5 main values. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Darkest dark, 5. Second to the darkest dark, 4. Third to the darkest dark would be 3. 2 is the highlights, and then 1 is the super bright lights. Everything else is just some edges. So 5 values and some edges. How does that work? For example, the background could be 3, the same value as the glabella. Every plane change is a color change, but color itself contains 3 main components, one of which is value. Even though the hue could be different, the value can be the same. So for example, this value is the same as this one. For example, this value is the same as that one. This value is the same as this one. So grouping those values together, keeping it more simple, is how you can maintain just 5 simple values. And of course, it can be 6, it could be 7, but keeping it to a minimal with some edges is actually going to make it an easier thing for you. And I think those were the last questions that we had there. And the remark about painting from terrible photos, yeah, the thing is, when you're painting from a photo reference, you must have experience painting from life first. And thanks to the good old pandemic, everyone's used to now staying in. So painting groups are a little bit more scarce these days. So the best thing you can do is to paint from life and to paint from photo reference. Paint from photo reference if you want to improve paint from old master paintings, master studies, what I'm trying to do, and this is, I don't want to say anything I shouldn't say, but what I'm striving to do here is to fix something about painting. There's a problem that I have with painting. There's a problem I have with the old master paintings. And that problem is there's no variety in old master paintings. There's no variety in Rembrandt's. There's no variety in Velázquez. There's hardly any variety in John Singer Sargent, although he has more variety than others. Because there is a John Singer Sargent painting of someone similar to who I've just painted. So Sargent has more variety, but portrait painting in general, through the decades, there's a problem with it. There's no variety in it. I'm going to try and fix that. That's going to be one of my goals. I'm going to try and fix that because there should be more variety in portrait painting. Each one of these paintings, I will post the image on my Instagram, and in the future, they'll be posted on my website. These pictures are going to serve for you to recreate, because I want to have these to be your future master studies. Not that I'm calling myself a master, because I've got a long way to get there. But these will be your images right here. These will be your images for you to recreate on your own. And these videos will accompany those pictures so that you can recreate them on your own. And there's going to be a variety of different skin complexions, different ethnicities, different cultures. That's what I want to incorporate. That's what I want to add to the world of portrait painting, along with my videos, of course. That's something I want to do. Happy holidays to you, Luis. Rob CP question: is it best to gray down a color with the complement or use gray paint? I typically like to use the complement first to neutralize it, and then I add something that's kind of cold to it, because grays typically are a little bit cooler anyway. Grays are a little bit cooler anyway. But yeah, I typically neutralize with the complement, which makes it brown, and then I add kind of like a blue to it. But yes, that's how I do it. That's my answer to you, Rob CP. Lady Death, is there a way to sign a painting left or right? Not necessarily. There's no right or wrong way to do it. The best way really is in terms of your composition. So for example, with this composition, since so if we're going here to the finished painting, I signed it to the top left because I liked that his eyebrow was raised to the top right. So, and I like that little swerve on his beard is kind of like pointing towards the signature. I could have easily signed it on the bottom, but it all depends on your composition, really. It's just a matter of feel. But no, there's no right or wrong way to sign it. Hey, Rob CP. Oh, thank you, thank you. I still feel like I've got a long way to go, but the goal is to make these paintings that you can recreate. So it looks like the next time we are going to paint a Peruvian model. I am not Peruvian in the sense that I wasn't born and raised in Peru. I know about the food really well. I don't know that much about the culture because I was raised by my family speaking English, and you know my Spanish is meh. I can't really speak it that well, but I have the face from Peru, but I'm basically American. But next time we will paint me a self-portrait, and we're gonna focus on likeness, and you're gonna tell about you're gonna be able to tell likeness because you can see me here on this camera, so you'll be able to tell what things can get the likeness. Thank you, Luis. So this is the point where I will ask if there are any last minute questions. And as I wait to see if there are any last minute questions, if you want to take your online art education with me further, please consider checking out my Patreon. It starts out, the online classes start out at $10 a month. What I have just added to them now that I'm in this this apartment with high-speed internet, is we are going to do a live chat, not once a month now, but twice a month, every other Wednesday. Not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday around this time, 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. If you want to Zoom with me, camera to camera, at the $10 a month, you can do that. We can talk on Zoom. I won't be painting because that is reserved for the Zoom tiers, which are a little more expensive. I'll probably be on my pool table, which is behind me, but we will be able to talk together on Zoom next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is the $10 a month, which is more incentive for you to join if you're interested, if you want to hang out with me. Hey, Luis. Thank you. I like Peruvian culture myself. Hey, Tegan. Do I idolize flesh colors? Not so much. I try to make them as true as I can to the light key. I think more about light conditions when I mix skin color than the actual local color of the skin color. So I try not to idealize it, but I try to make it more to reflect the light condition. So from Hippie Artist, let's see. You're struggling to see me live. Is there a reason you're working so much earlier? Yeah, there's a reason I'm working so much earlier, and that's because I moved to a small apartment with my wife, which is it's a dream come true. Because we used to live at my parents' place because, finances, but now we can afford to live out on our own, and I'm doing all of my work earlier to be done with work when she gets back home, because the kitchen is in front of me. Living room and studio is behind me. Bedroom is to the right. So there's really no space for her to walk around. So that's why I'm doing it earlier. So yeah, I apologize for the different time. Rob CP, can I show how to measure proportion for next time for the self-portrait? Sure. I will say, more or less these days, I am not measuring. I'm just eyeballing proportion, but I can show you some techniques for that, and which is that's a great question for the online classes. I'm actually gonna give away something about the online classes. Hey, hippie artists, you always want to hang out with artists. So again, everyone, if you want to hang out with me on Zoom every other week, again with the $10 a month, though I won't be painting, I'll probably be on my pool table. But if you want to hang out and chat for a while every other week, you'll be able to do so. So more incentive for you to join my online classes. So Tegan, you like exaggerating cooler or warmer skin tones? Whoa, it sounds like something just blew up. All right, hold on a second. All right, so for the online classes on Mondays, we're actually doing absolute beginner. So the main complaint that I've gotten from everyone is that my online classes are too advanced. I'm fixing that. So Mondays is going to be absolute beginner. I mean, if you've never painted before, Mondays are for you. Fridays are more advanced, intermediate to advanced. Oh my goodness, thank you so much for the super chat. Um, Jane Grayson, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you so much. I can pay the bills now. Thank you so much for the super chat. That is a miracle for me. You are way too kind. Jane and Stephanie, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm gonna give something away now from my online classes. This here was done with a custom grid. I made a custom grid that started out with, again, the reference was right next to it, eyes, eyebrow, this forehead line, nose, mouth, all horizontals, all verticals for the tear ducts, edge of the nose, edge of the face, all verticals makes a custom grid to a face. Then you basically fill in those lines, and then you have a perfect likeness if you're working site size. I can't really do that in this video format because it's very tedious. It takes a long time. But again, this is something that anyone will be able to do. So I am making Mondays absolute beginner days because the number one complaint I got was that my online classes are too advanced. Oh, thank you, Jane. I will. I definitely need to buy some paints. So I will definitely buy some paints for sure. So Tegan, do you start with non-chromatic colors in the beginning of a portrait? So like this one, like for absolute beginners, I recommend to work in monochrome, and then add color to it. But I personally work with color first, just because of the speed. It's easier for me to see mistakes with color. And yeah, Tegan, that's a good way to think about it. The way I do it this way is because it's more fun for me, and it's just something that I can. It's just automatic for me because of how I've been trained, is to jump into color. But yes, starting with value first is definitely much let's say simpler to start with. And like I said, for Mondays, again, if if you're watching this in the future, this is already pre-recorded for you. Again, it started off with simple lines, and you see how light and shadow is flat. Light and shadow is flattened out. So these are projects for absolute beginners. If you've never painted before, you can get to this level right away. Like this week, you can get to this level. And I'm not saying that just because to say that, but there are some things I figured out recently, like edges, for example. For the first layer of color, edges were not a consideration. They had their own video for the light and shadow shape. Monday classes, so my online classes are now Mondays and Fridays. So my schedule, if you want to see my schedule, I'll show you my schedule right now. So I'll show you my schedule. And online classes, online students will have this schedule, but you can also see my schedule if you want to. No need to hide it. This is my schedule. So this is my work schedule. So Mondays, 10 a.m., basic level lesson live. So the way my online classes work is I stream my lesson, and then it is available pre-recorded for all online students. So that's Monday is basic level. Intermediate level is Friday at the same time. Wednesday, alternating weeks, so next week, will be the live chat check-in. That's where online students will be able to ask me or tell me if something in the classes are not going the way that they want. Let's see, Friday I have a one-on-one Zoom with Randy, and my group Zoom is 12 o'clock p.m. on Tuesdays, which is actually 30 minutes from now. That is every Tuesday. That's the $40 a month tier. Then I have Ellen at 1 p.m. on Fridays. Then I have a group Zoom lesson 2:30 p.m. on Fridays. Again, that's for the Zoom tiers. Everything in blue is the Zoom tiers. Everything in black is the $10 a month tier. So Tuesday, 2:30 p.m., I upload a virtual classroom, which gives advice to all students. And then Wednesday, 2:30 p.m. is a behind the scenes video. It's usually a fun little video I upload. Not always necessarily art related, but just kind of like behind the scenes stuff. That is my schedule for the week. So that is in case anyone's wondering when I upload what. And then you saw Tuesdays this time is for YouTube public. Tegan, do I start with middle tones in a portrait like Sargent did? I kind of do like to work that way. And since we're kind of like nearing the end of this video, typically I'll do this, which is a little summary. So, in the beginning, there was a blank canvas. That wasn't so blank, actually. I like to tone my canvases neutral gray, which I think I actually need to start toning some more. I like to tone them neutral gray with black and white paint. And then there was a midtone, just like you asked, Tegan, there was a midtone, a middle value. Then there were dark accents. And then there were planes, so 3 masses. That dark, the light of the dark of the shadow of the hair, the light of the beard, and then the skin tone. And then I stated the masses, so then there were all these masses. And then we started to subdivide the masses. We subdivided the masses. And then we subdivided the masses even more. And then we added subtlety to it. There's the subtlety. And there you go. Now we have signed it, and now we have the finished painting. So that's a little summary. I usually don't like time lapses for that reason, because you can't really get much out of a time lapse. But that's my little summary of how this whole thing went down. Oh, good. I'm glad you like the schedule, hippie artist. Now, I think I'll show that every time now. No sense in hiding it. Like I said, there's the schedule. That is my fixed schedule now. As you see, it always ends. The work week always ends. It's always Monday through Friday. Thursday, there is a gap on Thursday. Monday through Friday, and it ends basically at 3:30, because the last bar begins at 2:30. Each of these bars is kind of like an hour. So that's the schedule. Oh, good. I'm glad that you like the summary. Hey, Rob CP, no magic to it. No magic to it. It's just, it's a good old painting. Good old painting. And I will post this on my Instagram. Remember, my Instagram is linked in the description box of this video. So you can recreate this painting for yourself. And you have all of the video, all of it available for you to watch. And again, thank you so much, Stephanie Thompson and Jane, for the super chat. That helps me out so much, so much. You have no idea how much that helps me out. So next time we will talk about likeness. And now I'm going to ask if there are any last minute questions. I think I asked last time, but I'm going to ask again. Any last minute questions? Oh, thanks, Luis. I will see you soon. Oh, thanks, Christine. I'm glad you enjoyed this session. Ingrid, do I use a simple palette of colors? It is pretty simple now. I did simplify it. I will say that this palette has the color range of a big palette, but it's a small palette. So it's titanium, well, not titanium, it's a flake white replacement, cadmium yellow, Indian yellow, cadmium orange, cadmium red, alizarin permanent, Viridian. That actually isn't Viridian because I need to buy more Viridian, which I can now, actually. I will buy more Viridian. But anyway, Viridian, Ultramarine Blue, Phthalo Turquoise, Dioxazine Purple. That palette gets you a huge range. I mean, a huge range of colors. But yes, it is a more simple palette than I used to. Hey, Vivian, are using just grays beneficial for first starting out? Yes. Monochrome is more beneficial for just starting out, which is why my Monday basic level lessons will always start out in monochrome and then build up to color. Hey, Rob CP, I'm glad that you liked this stream. And thanks for all the likes, everyone, and all the comments. It really does help. Do beginner classes have downloaded images? So we are working with, this currently is a Rembrandt from Google Arts and Culture. There are no downloaded images with it. Um, it doesn't have a template like Project 2 had. Instead, it's a custom grid. So the problem that I had with the template with Project 2 was that it didn't really translate well to recreating another image. So believe me, this is even easier than the downloaded image. Oh, thank you, Vivian. Hey Llama, yeah, this for the Monday basic, this is yeah, this is black and white. This is actually Alkyd black, the Paul Rubens Alkyd that they sent me a long time ago. Alkyd black and just titanium white. In this case, it's flake white replacement. Hey hippie artist, it would help you. Let's see, maybe not others, but when I mix color, when you mix colors, you need to see how you get those colors. You're still struggling with the colors that you want to get. Yeah, that could be, yeah, you know, that can be something we can focus on. Or, let's see, let's go back. So, for example, let's go to the very first one. Let's go to the very first one. And I'm going to take the chat out so you can see it. Orange, ultramarine blue, back to orange. It's about 50-50. Okay, see, orange and blue, white, back to ultramarine blue, cadmium orange, ultramarine blue, and white is all that I used for that color. Okay, let's move it along to a different place. What about this one? What did I use here? Because the majority of my colors are mixed kind of similarly. So I'm slowing it down for you. Dioxazine purple, alizarin permanent, cadmium yellow, ultramarine blue, and that's how we got that one. Let's move it along to another place. What about that one right there? What did I do for that? So now I'm going to show you what I used for the blue. So I can always slow these down. So Llama, did you use black color while painting? No, I don't have black. For my dark colors, I have ultramarine blue, dioxazine purple, phthalo turquoise, and alizarin permanent. So let's see how I get that blue. How do I manage life being an artist? Well, I showed you my schedule. So that's how I manage life. What did I do right there? I went to ultramarine blue. Yep, that's ultramarine blue. Alizarin permanent. Cadmium orange. Ultramarine blue. And that's how I got that one. So that's just a brief little example of how I mix some colors. But I mean, I can do a whole video if you want me to, where I just do that, where I just stop and show you mixtures. If you want me to, we can do that one after likeness. And yeah, you can always like scroll back and forth and stuff. But yeah, managing life as an artist is a dream come true, really. You know, being able to do what I love to do full time and make a living is it's really a dream come true. So it's I mean I'm just I mean with contributions like Patreon and YouTube the super chats from Jane and Stephanie Thompson and like everyone is just it's the dream life really. It gets hard at times, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes there's not really so much motivation to do it, but um, there's ups and downs, but for the most part it's a dream life. So I guess those are all the questions for today. Remember, here is my schedule, and as you see, Tuesday YouTube Public Live is 10 a.m., which actually is 10:15 a.m., but 10:15 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time every Tuesday. So once again, thank you all so much for watching. I really hope that my online classes are going to be something that you will consider in the future. The funny thing is, every time I end a video for my online students, I end it the same way. So I'm trying to end it in a similar but different way. So I hope that you will consider my online classes, but if it's too much for you at the moment, these videos for you are completely free, and I'm posting the reference for you. The finished painting is the reference for you on my Instagram. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I wish you the absolute very best in all of your artwork, and I will see you again on the next one.